Welcome to Final Expense Telesales. My name is Dana Neeson. Today I'm going to be bringing you an inside look to today's advanced team training. So I took a volunteer, we did a call review on something that did not sell. It resulted in a callback. And anytime that happens, of course, we always want to know why. We always want to understand where we went wrong, what potholes we created, what we could do differently the next time around. And to be honest, even great sales agents just sometimes lose their way. Also worth mentioning that I only included, which seems like a lot, but I only included in just over an hour of the call because it is interrupted with so many coaching opportunity moments. I do want to share with you that after quotes, the prospect said that he had to go to the doctor and to call him back on Friday. Of course, that was last Friday. The client never answered the phone and completely ghosted the agent and left the agent feeling like, what happened? I don't know what happened. So you're not going to hear the quotes. You're not going to hear the rebuttal and the objection handling that was done because I don't think she did. I think she really thought he was a buyer and that he would answer the phone on Friday. So you're not going to hear the end, but you're going to hear everything that you need to hear in order to understand why this didn't end in a sale. If you are just now finding this channel, my name is Dana Neeson. I run a telesales team for Tailored Legacy. We sell final expense insurance over the phone with just one carrier. My job is to help you have stronger, more sophisticated sales conversations. And if you are looking for a home or somewhere to join in 2025, we are growing like crazy. We would love to talk to you. Our contact information is in the description below in every single video. We look forward to hearing from you and seeing if what we do serves what you're looking for. Enjoy and have a great sales week. All right, here we go.
Sure.
Hi, this is Nancy.
Hi, licensed agent. I have Guillermo Cervantes on the line. Doesn't have anything in place to pay for final expense and would like more information on the program. Thank you, Guillermo, and have a great day to both of you.
You too.
All right, well, good morning. This is Nancy. How are you?
Fine, and you?
So, Mr. Cervantes, my name is Nancy. I'm a licensed agent in the state of California, and I do need to let you know this call may be monitored and recorded, okay?
That's fine.
So I understand you're looking for information on protecting your family from out-of-pocket funeral expenses, but is this just for you or other family members as well?
Just for me.
I'm curious, what kind of caused you to want this information today?
Well, because I'm already 65 years old.
Okay, have you ever had a life insurance policy or would this be your first time?
This will be my first time.
All right, so let's do this. Before I go.
Okay, first opportunity to pause. In these advanced training sessions, you guys have to pretend you're listening to it like you're going to be the one leading the class today and going to be offering critiques and suggestions and positive feedback to Nancy and everything we're listening to. So you should be writing things down that you hear, just like I am. So what do we know? And where part of advanced training is learning and retraining your brain for opportunities to grab onto information and get the customers to expand on their answers. So what information did the client give Nancy that we could have grabbed onto and gone deeper?
His age. I should have asked. What is it about your age that caused you to start looking? Yes, I see that.
And it was actually even in the way he said it, that was even more important to me. There was a word that he used that if you were really listening to what he said, you would have used that word back at him. Did anyone catch that?
I did not catch that.
Who caught the word? Okay, I'm going to rewind it and play it again. Just download it so I can do that.
Answer.
Hi, this is Nancy.
Hi, licensing in place to pay for final expense and would like more information on the program. Thank you, Guillermo, and have a great day to both of you.
You too.
All right, well, good morning. This is Nancy. How are you?
Finding you?
So, Mr. Cervantes, my name is Nancy. I'm a licensed agent in the state of California, and I do need to let you know this call may be monitored and recorded, okay?
That's fine.
So I understand you're looking for information on protecting your family from out-of-pocket funeral expenses, but is this just for you or other family members as well?
Just for me.
I'm curious, what kind of caused you to want this information today?
Well, because I'm already 65 years old.
Okay, what's the word?
Already?
Already?
Okay, so what would be a good clarifying sentence that uses that word back at him?
Could it be as simple as already?
It could be a
You know,
simple,
what about,
what do you mean already 65? Right? Or what had you say already 65? Right? Like there's nothing super sophisticated, but it's just the act of being able to be in super in tune to all the little clues that your customer gives you, because right there, well, I'm already 65. Oh, okay, well, I guess, what do you mean by already 65? Like, does that concern you? And then he's going to expand, right? So every single moment that you miss, which is an opportunity to expand. And what does expanding create? When you get the client to expand on somebody's answer, what does that create for them?
Trust.
pain?
Opportunity for them to talk.
All of those answers are correct. So if we're getting him to expand on what he meant by that, he's going to think we're genuinely interested in what he's saying, which to Ed's point creates trust. He's going to expand on what being already 65 means to him emotionally, which will get him to Brittany's point, find pain. And to Nancy's point, he's going to talk more, right? And the more that we can get all of those things to happen right away, the more engaged we will have a client. And every time you ask somebody, what caused you to want the information? What had you requesting it? Every single time their answer will be surface, right? You have to remember that it will always be surface and there will always be opportunity to learn more, with the only exception of you have someone that does it without you having to ask. Right. Well, I turned 65 this year and everyone in my family starts to get sick when they turn 65. And I just had a neighbor across the street have a heart attack at 65. Like, you got someone like that, you know, you could have some clarifying questions like, wow, that's a lot. I guess, what is all that doing for you personally? Right? Like, and then get them to expand on what the emotion of all of that does. So even though I don't need expansion on details, I could get some expansion on what all that is doing to them internally. Okay. So first opportunity to expand. Let's keep going.
Okay, have you ever had a life insurance policy, or would this be your first time?
This will be my first time.
All right, so let's do this. Before I go into what I do you mind if I just ask you some questions to figure out what information you might need exactly?
Yes. I mean, no,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, so God forbid if you were to pass away, what type of
Okay. Pausing again. So I'll have Nancy try to answer it first. But when somebody says it's their first time getting a policy, how could you acknowledge that in a way that makes them feel safe to be on the phone with you?
I should have emphasized, wow, there's a lot of confusing information out there and expanded on, like, what have you found, if anything?
Well, that's the next thing we're going to talk about, right? Because we always have to go back before we go forwards. As Ed has been to probably the most amount of these trainings than anyone else who's on here today. But the number one mistake that most of us do is we just want to start going forward with the what
Mhm.
exception, and we resist going back. Right. But there's so much power and there's so many clues in going back, which we're not even there yet. We're just at this is my first time. Okay. So in all of us, just being human beings, when we are doing something for the first time, it is what? Fill in the blank.
Scary.
Scary. What else?
Unknown.
There's fear of the unknown. What else?
And confusion. You don't really know what you're getting yourself. Yeah, it's confused about it.
Anything else?
I need help.
Yeah, and we don't know what we don't know, right? So anytime we're doing something for the first time, we need an expert to guide us, right? Which is why he's on the phone with you. But at this point, he's judging you just as much as you're judging him. And in order for him to trust you as the expert, we kind of have to meet them where they're at, unscripted, and say things like, wow, well, congratulations for going 65 years without needing life insurance, right? And have a little joke, maybe. That's another like like one with like the mood. And then, but also humanize it. Like, wow. So does all of this, getting this for the first time, does it kind of feel maybe a little overwhelming or confusing to you at all? Right? Yes, it does. Okay, well, that makes sense. One thing that, right, this is in the script, even though it's a little bit further, it's fine. One thing I do want to make sure or assure you of today is that no matter what you decide, I want to make sure you understand it. That way, when you're ready to make a decision, you have all the right information you need to make one. Do you think that would help? Right? Yes, that would help. And what that does is it lowers sales resistance. It lowers the pressure that this person is going to try to sell me or strong arm me into something. And we're setting that tone very, very early on, right? And when someone does that, like when we're learning a skill for the first time, or we're buying something for the first time, we're scared that we're just going to be sold and we're not ready to buy. We need like, and so if someone were to say to you, hey, look, Nancy, no pressure. I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to help you with your first time today. No matter what you decide, I just want to make sure that you understand it so you have all the information you need to make the right decision whenever you're ready, right? Lower those walls, lower that tension. Okay? And so the combination of letting somebody go deeper into I'm already 65 and acknowledging that this is their first time and that I'm here to create a safe space for you. I mean, all of that, you're already like, this person already is starting to feel super comfortable. Any questions about that?
Not a question, but I do really like when we say, that line, one thing I want to assure you on. It almost feels like you can feel the tension like dropping on the call, like almost immediately. It's like you said, like no pressure, we're taking everything off, like not trying to sell, just trying to help. Yeah, I really like that part in the script.
And and that's truly my intention, because I know if my intention is to help, not sell, the result of helping is the sale. The result of selling is a callback, right? Because I'm more concerned about getting the sale than I am about making sure that my customer is in an environment that makes them feel understood. Okay, so now what we just heard, where Nancy's about to go, is what expenses. Well, do you remember going back at all? Let's listen to a couple more minutes and then we'll see.
Expenses, are you most worried about your family having to come out of pocket?
Just funeral.
And when you say funeral, are we talking about a traditional burial or are we talking cremation?
Cremation.
Got it. And are you like just trying to cover your bases or do you want to leave some money behind for your family?
Just cover the bases.
Just cover your bases for cremation. So you understand that cremation,
Well, I want information on both.
you want price for both? Just in case?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, so here's the thing. If you want to be buried inside the casket, you're also going to need a plot, right? That's the real estate that you're going to be buried
Ooh.
under. So we have to include the plot along with the funeral services, and that is going to be around $12,000 to $15,000.
Okay. Someone give me some feedback.
Why talk about the costs that early?
Yeah, way too soon. Way too soon.
And I think he said cremation. Why are you talking about a plot?
Mhm.
Well, he said he wanted price for both.
Oh, I
But
thought she said leave money behind.
I think he said he just wanted to cover the basis, and then he said, I'd like a price for both.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, I misheard. I
But
thought he meant leave
yeah,
money behind as
yeah,
well as.
regardless, talking about the cost right now is definitely too soon. That could cause a little
Yeah,
panic. So
yeah.
what questions, you guys should be having some questions here as far as him wanting prices for both. There should be questions.
Oh,
What
wow.
questions? can you
Well,
tell
I
me?
sometimes ask, what is traditional with your family? Brothers, sisters, parents, what have they done?
Okay, what else?
I don't know.
I would say for why for both. I mean, why do you just that simple?
Ah,
Why do you want them for both? I mean, just
simple.
what is your why for both?
Exactly. That's really
Mm-hmm.
what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Price for both.
Okay.
That has me very curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's already 65. He wants it just for his funeral. He's saying cremation. He's just answering Nancy's questions. Like we're very like question, answer, question, answer, question, answer,
Oh,
right? There's no depth.
So
And
can I just stop you right there?
yeah.
Yes. What could have I done to get him to like talk to me and not
Well,
just answer a question?
so you rewatch this when it's done because having him expand on his age is one opportunity, right? To get him to talk. We have no idea what conversation would have happened had we done that. As well as reassuring him and getting him to talk about like buying insurance for the first time, but also going back, right? Which we didn't do. Oh, so it's your first time. So I guess how long have you been looking? Right? Tell me what that's been like for you. What have you found? And that is a really important piece of information that we're missing. And depending on what those answers are or were, would have possibly had more opportunities to talk about that experience for him. But because we skipped it, I don't know like what those questions would have been. But when he said a price for, cremation, but no, I'd like a price for both, you just ask, oh, okay, I guess like what causes you to want to get prices for both? And just get them to talk, right? It's those open-ended questions. So what you're doing is you're asking yes and no questions and you're giving him multiple choice answers to questions that you're asking, which when you do that, then most people will take the path of least resistance and they will choose an answer that you give them. So you're putting answers in his mouth and he's responding to you in a way that you're dictating. So if you were to say just the funeral and he says, what expenses? He's like, just the funeral. You could say, can you tell me more about what just a funeral means? You could say something like that, open-ended. If you were to say, do you want burial or cremation? And he's like, just cremation, but now can you give me pricing for both? Like oh, okay, well, that's like a really big difference. I get what causes you to want to get pricing for both. right? Open-ended questions without providing multiple choice answers, as well as trying to avoid yes or no questions will force the customer to talk more. And slowing down, right? Slowing down will give you kind of that space to ask those questions. You're going really fast.
I've heard people say they just want I'm just interested in the funeral, or they'll say burial. And when we get later on in our discussion, they'll say they won't say they meant it, but I'm figuring traditional, but they really meant cremation. So is it important right in the beginning, maybe to ask, just my burial, just my final expenses, and use that, what do you mean by that?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Can you just expand a little bit more about what that means to you so that
to you.
when I go into like how much would be appropriate, I make sure that I give you accurate numbers. Like what does that mean to you?
Okay.
To get people to, expand on that. We never want to live in the world of assuming anything because that's what's always going to get us into trouble. Not knowing where he's been prior to getting on the phone with us is a huge pothole, right? It is a huge pothole and a huge sinkhole. That's how you have to picture it, that we have no idea what we're up against if we don't know where he's been.
But sometimes doing that, Dana, we ask so many open-ended questions or just questions in general. The insured is very impatient. I just want the price, and they'll say that 3, 4 times early on. And I just ignore it and keep going, or say something, I'm going to get to that, but I need a little bit information from you so that I can get you an accurate quote.
So validating what they want is really important. Like, absolutely, I have to give you the price. That's the whole reason that we're on the phone, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
So validating, not ignoring. So validating their concern,
Okay.
and even making it more important than it is. Like, absolutely, I have to give you the price. Like that's the whole reason we're even on the phone. I guess, and then ask a question. Have you gotten any prices yet for this? Right.
Okay.
And like, so this is another way for me to go back, like, yes, I have, but I'm not going to share them with you. Right. Oh, that's
Hmm.
okay. I don't need you to share them with me. But if you've gotten prices before and they're all for the same type of insurance, then you've probably noticed they're all about the same price. Is that correct? Right. And I'm kind of giving them some clues. And if I can do stuff like that and validate their experience, it's going to create me as the expert, and also not engaging in people's answers also will cause people to become impatient. So if we're question answer, we receive the answer and we go, okay, sounds good. Gotcha. Next question. If that becomes our pattern, that also makes people impatient because we're not the expert, right? People don't want to answer questions for the sake of answering questions. They will answer questions if they feel like the person that's asking the questions deserves the answers.
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
And so a lot of this is done very early on. We have to establish ourselves as that expert very early on. And it all comes down to what caused you to inquire. Are we doing the work right then and there to get them to start opening up, and then creating some validation, right? Oh, thank you for sharing that with me. That's really common. I do hear that all the time, that people have waited for so long, they've seen people pass away, and, they finally realized that they should probably do something about this now, but this is just me providing some context to me getting someone expanding on their answers. And now I'm starting to create this position of authority because I've worked with people in their same situation,
Mhm.
right? But it's that whole interrogation thing without context that creates impatience.
Yeah, that's tough to get over with some people, where all they want is the rate, or why are you asking me so many questions? What
It
does that
all
have to do with
starts
it? What does that have to do with getting a quote, or the price? How would you answer that? Or does it depend on where they said it?
We have to, so part of these is evaluating the calls and identifying where that moment happened. And it's usually 3 or 4 questions back,
Okay.
right? We're learning how to prevent that from happening and how to, because again, people will not answer questions just because you're asking them. They need to know that the person who's asking the questions knows what the heck they're talking about. And that is only done by engaging in people's answers and validating their experience. Right.
Well,
So
also getting their permission to ask the questions in the very beginning. Before I go into what we do, I just have a few questions to ask, make sure I get a better understanding, blah, blah, blah. If we skip that part, we're setting us up for we don't have the permission to keep asking those questions.
yeah, permission is always an important first step because those are the little mini invitations that create initial engagement. All right, let's keep listening to
All
Nancy.
right.
California versus just a mere cremation, you could get away with a $5,000 policy. You want to make sure that you get both areas covered in case.
Yes.
So who in your family will be responsible for making all your arrangements when you're not here?
One of my sons.
Okay, so it's going to be your children, obviously. But let me ask you, because I'm a parent too, what makes you think that your son doesn't want to pay for your services?
Oh, I never asked him. I mean, I think I should be responsible for that.
So you as a parent feel like you're responsible to take care of this before you pass?
Yes.
Got it, okay. Well, that's good, because not every parent feels that way. You know, a lot of people believe that their kids should be.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not one of them. All right, that's fine. All right, so this is what I'll do. But let me ask you, do you by any chance have any assets or savings accounts that your children could fall back on in case this doesn't work out for you?
No.
No, not
Well,
really.
yes, I do. I have some. Yeah, I have some vehicles, some old cars that are real expensive.
That could.
Okay, so thank you for asking that. Now this is a seed that has been planted, and you have to know how to leverage that information later. Where do you bring that? Because you better bring that back up. Where do you bring that back up?
FCGS,
What part?
same day payout,
Why?
because it takes time to sell those cars, and we can pay, his son the same day he passes away or within 24 hours, instead of him having to come out of pocket to pay for this upfront cost and then waiting on the reimbursement for the cars. He can just go ahead and get everything taken care of immediately.
And good. And do you like the idea of that? Do you see that even if you have these cars that you could potentially sell, that in order to list it, find a buyer that has, enough, cash right away, come test drive it while they just lost their father and going through all that emotional turmoil. Now they have to sell a car so they can pay for your funeral. Is that really the most ideal situation? Right? Or would it maybe make more sense to know that when you pass away, that money is going to be in their hands, regardless of having to sell those cars? That needs to be brought up, right? That's why we ask that question, because we're looking for what the alternative is. What is the plan B? You don't just ask it for the sake of asking it. You better bring that up again when FCGS comes around.
Sell to get the money, I suppose, right?
Well, one of my cars is worth 180,000.
Wow, what kind of car is worth 180,000?
56 Nomad original.
Wow, that's impressive. How long have you had it?
About 40 years.
You've had it for 40 years, and does it still drive?
Yes, it's beautiful. And I have a 57 Chevy convertible.
Okay, you must be a car fanatic.
It's, yeah, lowriders.
I bet your sons will be fighting over the cards, and I don't think either one of them would like
No,
to sell it
no,
for themselves. Okay.
no, there's a car for each one of them.
Okay. So basically, am I the first person you're talking to about life insurance?
No,
We,
no.
But you've been down this road before, and have you gotten quotes prior?
Yes.
So what kind of stopped you from moving forward with any one of those?
Uh, there were some things that I didn't like, and I said, well, you know, I'm gonna keep looking. And I had called this place since last week, but I cut my hand the other day, so I couldn't answer the phone
Uh-huh.
because I was under medication.
Oh.
I got stitches on my hand, and it's been hurting.
Got it.
Yeah, but just stitches.
Okay.
That's all. I'm okay with everything else. I don't take no medications for heart, for diabetes, for nothing. I'm clean. Did a physical about 2 months ago
Yeah.
for the Anthem insurance.
Yeah.
Everything clean, passed, no problems. I'm good.
That's good.
I don't take, like I
Okay.
said, no medication at all. I'm 65 years old,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm in good health. But just
you
in
still
case,
working?
you never know.
You never know.
I
Yeah.
just
Are
retired.
you still working? You retired. Okay.
I just
very good.
retired in September.
Okay. And when you get your Social Security benefits on a monthly basis, do they put it in what's known as a direct express card, or does it go into your bank account?
It goes into my bank account.
Okay. So let me give you some information about our agency.
Okay. So you did go back, Nancy. You got a little bit of information on the history. What did we learn? And then where did we fall off track?
So, quick question. Listening to this, I realized there's a sequence that I should follow so that I don't have to go back.
Mhm.
And I do this because I do this off of memory. Obviously, when you're having a conversation, you forget the
Yeah.
level of sequence that, we're instructed to do. But listening to this reminds me that there is a reason why there is a sequence, and that should be followed.
Well, yes and no. Sometimes the conversation will naturally take you in a certain direction, and it may not always follow like the order per se. This conversation could have easily followed that order because you were the one that took it in the direction that you wanted it to go, but not always. Sometimes people will dictate the road that we're going to take. As long as we go back at some point and get the information, that's really the most important thing. So I'm happy that you did eventually go back there, but then you didn't quite leverage the information completely. So what did he say? And anybody can answer. What did he say when you asked him, why did you choose not to, like, what stopped you from going forward with any of those other companies?
Well, he basically said he likes some things, but not others. I remember that conversation.
Are we
So right
happy
then
with
and
that
there,
answer? Do you know what that means? I liked some things, but not others.
I thought I asked him, what do you mean by that? But I didn't hear that.
No, no.
I thought I asked, I really did.
There was another weird thing that he said that made no sense, that took him off track of that, and then we didn't bring him back. What was the weird thing that he said in regards to why he didn't buy it?
This whole cutting the hand and not being able to answer the phone, and
Yeah,
it
the
just
whole
sounded
cutting the
like he
hand.
realized my thought process is not good, and he's kind of making a lot of excuses.
Yes. And so that would have been a good opportunity for a recap, Nancy, before just brushing it off and moving forward. So, okay, so you have talked to a few people, you like some things, but not others. And then you had this situation where you cut your hand and you kind of put it to the side. But can we just go back real quick? Like, what did you mean by you liked some things, but not others? Like, right? Like, this is also uncovering whatever stopped him from buying it with person A, B, and C is going to be the same reason or a similar reason he's going to stop buying from you. And the most common reason that people don't buy is what?
They don't
Price?
like the price for the amount of
Money.
coverage.
Yeah, the
Yes.
price.
Correct. And so if we can't get more information about that, we can't leverage those specific experiences in which section?
FCGS,
Education,
education. Wow, okay.
right? So if we just stay generic in our explanations, like where it's our first day, we're just learning the script. If we just stay generic and we don't leverage their past experiences in education, we're not going to bring it to life for them. When somebody is talking about somebody's, like if we have kids in this example, if someone's trying to give general parenting advice to me about what a lot of kids do versus parenting advice to me about what my specific kids do, what do you think I'm going to pay more attention to?
Specific.
My specific kids. So if you were to get that information in education and you say, so I know that you were quoted this amount of coverage for this price and this amount of coverage from that company. Can I help you understand why you're getting that? Right? It's his experience. It's going to be the same information, but you're going to light up a different part of the brain that will actually keep somebody from tuning you out. Because a lot of times these people are tuning us out because we're not making the information relevant enough to them to keep them engaged. And so if an objection is it was too much money for the coverage amount, I have to overcome that objection in education by ending things like, so do you see how, like, or why these quotes that you were getting, they're the only appropriate option for you at this point if you don't want something that you could possibly outlive. Does that make better sense to you now? Right? Do you see how you'd have to be okay getting less coverage for more money? Otherwise, what's the alternative? Right? Because I would have already talked about term and he would say, well, I get something that makes me feel good, but it's just going to can't. Yeah. And then what happens? Then you're back to your kids selling your car, and is that really what you want? Right? So, and actually that's a really good point. Bringing up, I have a car that's worth 100 and some thousand, but is that really what you want? Do you want your kids to have to sell that? It sounds like that's like a family heirloom that you'd want to keep in the family, right? Is that really what you want? Do you want them to have to sell such a precious car like that? So getting those specific examples and bringing that in to education will further engage them and really make them understand so that you don't get that same objection. Okay.
See, I do need to ask you some health questions in order for me to find the lowest rate, okay? This way I could share some options with you.
No
So
problem.
our agency is called Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance Company, and they specialize in one area of life insurance. That's final expense. They've been around for over 60 years, and they do cater to those living on a fixed income. Now, you've spoken to other agents before, so do you know the difference between the two types of life insurance policies that's available out there?
No.
Oh, okay.
You're the first
Well-
one to tell me that.
Okay, wow. All right. So there are two different types of policies.
Okay. So you did good by saying wow, but what else could you have done there?
Expanded on that?
How?
I don't know.
What are we
You've got
trying to
numerous
me.
You've
quotes
got-
from companies
Uh,
and nobody has taken the time to do that for you.
Yes, we're creating doubt in the other people that he's spoken to because the biggest contributing factor for someone who's going to choose who they're going to do business with is who they trust. And trust is also going to base them on like that who they believe is the expert. So really like super creating like, wow, you've talked to how many other people and nobody's helped you understand this? Oh my God. This is really important because if you don't understand this, you might accidentally buy something for your sons that isn't even going to be there for them when you pass away. Like, this is really critical. I can't believe, like, like over dramatize it, because if you do that, it's going to create even more importance for them to receive it.
That you need to be aware of, and you need to decide for yourself which one is going to be the best suited for you. One is called term life insurance, and the other one is called whole life insurance. Now, term life insurance is what it actually sounds like. It's temporary protection that's designed to terminate. So what I mean by that, at your age, it's going to only insure you for about 10 or 15 years. Okay? You get to choose the term of the policy. And the rates will start out really, really low, but gradually fluctuate, going up as you age. However, if you do not pass away within that term period, that policy will automatically cancel, and you'll have to start all over again if you're eligible at that age. Okay? The reason you need to know about term life insurance is because this is the one that is being heavily advertised. You'll see term life insurance on TV, on the internet, and you'll get solicitations in your mailbox. All right? Examples would be get $20,000 for $995. I assure you, it never stays at $995. That is the one that put our elders in. But it will go down, and what they don't tell you is that it canceled. That is term life insurance. It's got benefits, right? The greatest benefit of term life insurance is the fact—
You're doing too much talking, Nancy. Just for a note, right? We need to separate some of these sentences with things like, does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? And he was trying to talk a couple of times, and you never gave him the space to talk.
That it will offer you a significant amount of coverage for pennies on a dollar, all right? But the reason they do that is because companies will make sure they're only going to approve it to those who are the healthiest. So it typically only pays out 3% of the time. 97% of the people who have it, they outlive the policy. Now let's look at the polar opposite of that. It's called whole life insurance.
Okay, do we know how he feels about term?
No, he
we do
just
not.
said,
No,
What do you mean by,
no.
what do you mean by that,
Yeah. And sometimes when I feel like I'm talking too much, I always ask, okay, so you have a term policy lasts about 10 years, and what happens after that policy ends at 10 years? What happens then? Get him to talk just to see exactly if he's with me. So that way I'll stop myself from talking.
Or even
It's
like,
okay.
what do you
Yeah.
think happens, right?
Mhm,
Because
right,
So,
right.
like, so what do you think happens after the 10 years?
That way I
And
understand if
he's
you're on the
like,
same page with
oh,
me.
it
Yeah.
cancels. And then you could even say, and what do you think happens to all the money that you've paid into it?
Yep.
You don't get any of it back. And then what happens if you pass away when it cancels? Right? Like all of these questions, these open-ended questions, like when we want to provide all these facts and information, there's so much opportunity to get the client to participate in the consequences of getting it without telling them that it's bad. So you started off really good by saying, I'm going to help you understand the difference between the two so that you can decide which one is the best fit. But then you ended up becoming super biased, right? And basically saying, term is bad. This is what's advertised to you. And then never asked him how he felt about it.
And I even use what you said before, Dana, like term is used when you want to protect temporary things during that temporary time. And and that's why I'm saying then it ends. So if you haven't protected those things at that temporary time, then what happens when you pass away? This mainly to get him to open up, especially because he said he's brand new. This is his first time. So just get him to understand and just to see if he's understanding what I'm saying, pretty much.
The other
If it's
thing
need
that
be.
Nancy said too is that it's only approved for people that are super healthy. And how did your client describe himself?
Really healthy.
Exactly. super healthy.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. That's a good one.
And
Okay.
so really kind of what you did was sell him term.
Oh my God, I
Yay,
didn't even
that's what I
see
was
that.
thinking. Mm.
Wow.
Right? You gave
Okay.
him all the
That's-
benefits of term, a lot of coverage, not a lot of money, super healthy. Well, I might not live till 80, like who knows? So that was a very one-sided conversation, and I have no idea how he feels about it.
Hmm.
Zero. So hold on one second. I need to respond to something really quick.
Okay, well, now I understand why I didn't sell it. Now I understand why he's been dodging me.
Hold on.
This all makes sense now. I was so confused. Hmm.
1 second. We'll continue here shortly. Okay. So
Can I
again,
ask, can I ask something since we're on term?
yeah,
Uh, I'm looking at the generic term, I call it a plate or the screen, and it's with the 995. I don't mention the amount of coverage. I just want you to hear an opinion, maybe to everybody, but uh, I say, yeah, you've seen these ads for 995 from Globe or Colonial Penn, right? They'll say, oh yeah,
I like
exactly. Those are examples of companies advertising their temporary protection. They take advantage of the fact that you're looking for a low payment. Now, do you ever notice that that low payment is for somebody who looks 80 years old, 70 years old, and 50 years old? They go, yeah, yeah. Well, how could that be? How much coverage do you think that's for? And they don't know. I said, well, nobody knows because they hide the fact that life insurance is based on age and health. And it starts out low, but the price goes up every few years. I don't get into the details, meaning, and then I just say, well, after 10 years, you have to reapply and your health could change and you might not qualify, but definitely 10 years down the road, rates are going to be higher. Now, the worst part is once you turn 75, 80, it cancels forever. Does this make, is this the type of plan you think you're more interested in? And they'll usually say, hell no, I don't want the policy to end. And I ask just like from the screen, why do you feel that way?
good.
I,
That's a perfect, Ed. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go into the weeds with the coverage amounts. That's not the point. The point is, if I don't know how the customer feels about something, we've missed the entire point of this section.
okay, so I can even shorten what I just said.
Yeah.
Okay, and
The
just
whole
say
point of that section is we need to get the customer to tell us that they don't want term and why.
that's right. Okay, and then whole life is the opposite. Blah blah blah. Okay,
And then the point of whole life is we need them to tell us they do want it and why. Now, to take it one step further, because we're in advanced training, we
mm-hmm.
need to insert the examples of quotes that they've gotten as they were shopping around.
Oh, great. So
You
maybe even bring that up
earlier.
if they said that they've already seen pricing. So
Yeah, or
maybe
they've
I
gotten,
agree.
now, well, for the
because if
person
they've
who
gotten
said, I'm not
quotes,
going to
hold
share
on.
that with you, you could probably come back and ask, can you tell me a little bit about the quotes you've received and how much coverage it was for?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely. You can come back there
Mhm.
and say,
yeah.
"See, now that you're educated a little bit about it,
Mhm.
because now you're providing something of value for free without asking for anything in return, except until this point. And especially when someone says, no one's educated me on it before, right? Now, this is a gift that just fell into your lap. So
Okay.
if it's okay with you, could we go back now and revisit some of the quotes that you've gotten since no one educated you? Let's figure out if these quotes were in fact term or whole life, right? If they were resistant to giving you what they found. Well, one of them, all of a sudden, you're going to have like Oh, well, I better, because if you've created that fear, I don't want to get something that cancels. I better figure out if I'm price shopping or any of these term. Well, this one is 20,000 for $95. This one's 15,000 for $75. Like most of their quotes will be whole life, 90%, right? And so, but that's what we need to get. So, because we need to know A, what we're up against, right? That's important because we will not be cheaper for the most part. But B, now we know what stopped them. Not enough coverage, too expensive. So now we can help them understand that the reason that they've gotten these quotes is because they
Mhm.
were getting quotes for whole life and not the term policies that we just talked about that you just said you didn't want. Does that make sense? Do you understand why you've gotten these quotes now?
I love the word that you said before you said everything else is, can we go back and revisit?
Yes.
I thought that was great. Revisit. I love that. I have to use that. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions in this section before we keep listening to the rest of her call? Okay.
That's a permanent policy. What that means is when you get approved by the company for whole life, you are locking in your rate for the rest of your life. So the rates never go up. Your coverage never goes down. And no matter how old or sick you get, nobody could cancel it on you. It is the only type of policy that is guaranteed to pay out because we're all going to die one day.
Does
Severity,
that make
it's
sense?
going to be a little bit higher in price than term life insurance, but not unaffordable. Otherwise, nobody will get it. And another thing is that they're going to keep a small cap on the coverage amount because you have to understand this is real money companies will need to pay because we are all going to die one day. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
So I understand that you're looking for, something to cover your funeral. What type of policy do you think is going to be best suited for you? Term life insurance or whole life insurance? Temporary?
Whole life
or-
insurance.
Okay, that's good.
Why do you
Because
feel that
whenever
way?
you're looking to cover your end of life expenses, you want whole life insurance that's guaranteed to pay
I'm
out.
providing the answer.
Yeah, yeah. You're giving
see
the
that.
why. The why has to come from them because that also creates the urgency to make a change when they are telling themselves what they want and why they want it. This would have also been a great opportunity to revisit the quotes he previously got. Right?
Yeah.
Right here. To know what he's going to be comparing you to.
There are more than enough companies in the state of California that will offer whole life insurance, okay? What you will notice calling from company to company is that the price you will pay for it is not going to be significantly different from one company to another because the price is based off of two things. It's going to be your age and it's going to be your health. And unfortunately, these two things you can never change, right? So price in general is about the same. What you're looking for is the benefit and the speed in which that money will come out to your son after you die. Because a lot of people just assume.
You hear, Nancy, how much talking you're doing?
That has been my biggest issue, right?
Gotta shorten these explanations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way too much.
And
right?
it's way too much
And it
information.
sounds like you're really trying hard to sell him.
Mm.
It needs to just be a lot more casual, right? Like just a lot more casual. Okay, perfect. So now that you understand the difference and you've shared with me that you think whole life is better, you've probably already realized that all quotes are typically about the same price, but there's a couple things that you might not know about what's going to happen to that policy when you pass away. Is it okay if I explain that to you? Right? Like you're already explaining it without doing like just a transition and getting permission for that explanation. Create some pause, and then we move on to the next part. Are you using the shortened version or the long version of FCGS?
Oh, just the longer version of
Oh, the short version is great. I'll just put that in there.
it.
Okay.
That when they have life insurance, the money's gonna get to your kids right away. It's just,
Yeah, that's what, yeah, I didn't think so.
yeah, let me explain why though, so
You
you
gotta let him
understand
talk.
it. When you die with a policy, the first thing your kids will need to get is going to be the death certificate. And unfortunately, that is not something they're gonna get on the spot. That takes,
Yeah,
all right? So typically in California, it takes about 7 to 10 business days. So they have to wait around.
Why is it important? Why do you guys think it's important that I've always asked the client, how long do you think it takes to get a death certificate?
Because most of them don't know, and usually their families have dealt direct with the funeral home who took care of everything. They thought it was done immediate.
Why else?
They also
Um,
relate. They also relate to when you tell them it's going to be a specific time.
No,
Or it could
why do
take
I
them.
want to ask them if how long do they know how long it takes? Not me telling them. Why do I
That's
ask them how long they think it takes?
that's
If
what I'm
they've
saying
taken
is
care of a funeral before, if they experienced it before.
So I didn't understand your answer, Alma, when you said that it relates. What do you mean by that?
um before I go into because I usually tell them, depending on the funeral home, it could take a couple of days to a couple of weeks, right? But then when I have asked them, um, have you ever planned or paid for a funeral before? And they say yes. Um, and they'll tell me it took X amount of time. So it relates to what I tell them. And I tell them, yeah, exactly. You know, it takes between a couple of days to a couple of weeks, depending on the funeral home. Some of them have told me, I just had someone that said they waited 4 months for a death certificate.
Okay, so let's pause. So I don't volunteer any time frame before I ask. So that's not what I'm asking. So I'm
Is it
saying,
to install doubt and then also curiosity at the same time?
no, you want to know their experience.
but why? Why?
Because if
Why?
you tell
Because they're
them,
okay. Go ahead.
because if you tell them it's going to take a week or two, and they just experienced it took 3 days, then you've lost trust.
Yes.
Yes.
And what's the opposite of that? Like, what if they had, like, what if in Alma's experience, it took 4 months and I said 7 days? Now I could have said, now if I just would have asked them, well, it took 4 months. Well, great. Now it takes 4 months.
Aha. Agree with them.
Yes.
Just agree.
So if
So
they
you're
say, yeah. So
confirming.
how long do you think it takes to get a death certificate? Well, we just planned a funeral and it only took 3 days. So we will absolutely, Amy is correct. We will lose trust if we tell them something that's different from their experience. Or or they just might be quiet and not volunteer information and think it, and you'll never know. Right? If
So
we dominate that conversation and they're like, well, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Go ahead, David.
so if somebody says, because I've had that happen a few times where they said, oh, well, we just had a funeral and it only took about 3 or 4 days to get it. So essentially I just agree with them on that and say, oh yeah, so we typically see, 3 to 7 days. Is that what I
No,
would?
the way that the script is written, it asks them. The original script says, do
Yeah.
you have any idea how long it takes to get a death certificate?
Right. And
They
then
give
he
answer,
says,
that's the right answer.
okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. Okay.
Yeah, that's the
I
right
have not been doing that. I
right?
have
So
not been
if they
agreeing with them.
say 3 day, 3 day, it doesn't matter what it is. 3 days is longer than an hour. Yes. So it doesn't matter what their experience is. We will always be able to be faster, but their experience is what we have to use.
Got it. Okay.
Right. But
That
it's
makes a lot of sense.
also
I think I've been
important.
causing sales resistance because I'm like,
Yes.
oh, well, we typically see 2 to 4 weeks or whatever, the script says,
No,
that's
because
what I've been
now
doing.
you are going against
Yeah.
experience and now you will lose trust.
Right.
Right. The other thing is if they say it only took 3 days and the life insurance paid out right away, and you ask questions like, well, if there was a way we could get them paid out even sooner, would that help? Because now I'm like, well, I don't even know if this section is going to be valuable to them. Right. This is why we ask these questions. No, it wouldn't matter. They could wait a week, it'd be fine. I don't talk about that section, right? This is called problem awareness. If there is no problem, then the solution means nothing for you, right? Then we skip it. So we have to make sure that there is, in fact, a problem that they relate to that now we can solve. If there's nothing for us to solve, then we're trying to create an artificial problem that doesn't exist in their mind, that is going to cause sales resistance, that's going to make us look like a pushy salesperson, right? And then now we're giving them a solution that doesn't matter to them, and now they're annoyed.
Well, let's say they realize or they think that waiting any amount of time is okay by them. Maybe they have assets, maybe they have assets or immediate access to assets, or their family would. But what about the Guardian Society? Maybe you don't highlight paying right away, but what about saving money?
Yeah, well, that's the next.
That's the
Yeah,
next.
we're not there
Okay.
yet.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Right, one step at a time. But the
Okay.
reason in the original script, I don't just feed information to people, right? There's so many opportunities for questions, and the more comfortable people get selling, they just get lazy and they stop asking the questions, and they're just like, I'm just going to tell you because it's easier and I already know and you're just going to believe me, right? But no, it's backwards. You have to stay true to the process. Problem awareness is only created by asking questions and figuring out, is this a problem for my customer? I can't be the one that tells them it's a problem. I have to create the environment where a problem might exist, and then I have to ask them questions to tell me why that would be a problem. Right?
Dana,
So
that's why the new script is so much better just on that section.
I don't even know if there's question in the new script. I'm just talking about that particular question.
Oh, well, yeah, because before
No,
you were saying we were telling people it takes 4 to 6 weeks to pay out, and by law it could take 6 months. And
well,
if
yeah,
they had it, yeah, I mean, we're telling them, not asking. So if we use the old script, we're setting ourselves up for an argument or maybe lack of trust.
possibly. For people that have never had life insurance before or have never planned for or paid for a funeral before, they may not know that, but I can.
Yeah. Okay.
But okay. So
Okay. Sorry.
back to FCGS. You have to think about this as problem awareness, solution awareness. If there's no problem there for your customer, your solution means nothing. Okay. And so they need to participate in this a little bit to create pain. And the more pain there is, the better your solution will be, and the higher sense of urgency they'll want to solve that fear of current pain or future pain, right? That's what we're trying to do, is create like a crescendo of pain. So by the time we get to the end, they want to solve that pain.
For 7 to 10 business days to get that death certificate. Once they get it, then they're going to submit it to your life insurance company and wait for them to review it, process it, approve it, and then cut the check. So if they're lucky, they're going to get the check in about 4 to 6 weeks. So let me ask you this. Every funeral home knows if you have life insurance policies, the money doesn't come out right away. Where would you get the money then to take care of your funeral?
Okay, they're all aircraft engineers.
Okay, all right. So they'll come up with the money one way or another. It's not going to be complicated.
Oh yeah, they all have their houses, they all own property, and they're aircraft engineers. They're well set.
Okay, so you've done.
They all went to college. Yes, I'm very proud of them.
You've done really well for your kids. So yes, you have every right to be proud. That's good. But majority of us, we tend to live paycheck to paycheck, so it's kind of difficult, right? So this is linked heritage.
Do you see how there's no problem for him?
Yep.
He just basically said, this isn't a problem for me. My kids are fine. They all went to college. They're good. So now you're trying to solve for something that isn't a problem. Right? So this is you telling him how he needs to feel instead of asking questions. right? So if your sons were in a position where they possibly had to wait several weeks or several months to get paid, how would that impact them? Would it impact them? Would that be a problem? Why would that be a problem? And if there's no problem, then there's no solution, right? And if there's no solution to the problem, there's no pain. This is just a benefit, right? That you're now pitching to him, that you're trying to persuade him into seeing a benefit to. Persuasion does not work in sales, right?
Each policy is vastly different. Remember when I told you that Lincoln Heritage specializes in final expense and that this is all
Yes.
they do? So what Lincoln Heritage has done, they partnered up with a nonprofit organization. It's called the Funeral Consumer Guardian Society. And so when you have a policy through us, the only thing your son will need to do is place one phone call to our 800 number. Let us know that you have passed away, and it is our nonprofit, the Funeral Consumer Guardian Society, that will advance your entire money to them in 24 hours. They do that because this is what they do day in and day out. And they also know that if they don't have the money, it brings in a little bit of complication for majority of us. Maybe not your son, but majority of us. But wouldn't you like the fact that they don't have to dip into their own pockets to pay for your funeral? Knowing that the money will get to them, right? Do you see the difference, right?
Do you see how you just asked a yes or no question?
Oh, I see a lot of mistakes. Now I understand why I didn't sell it.
Right? Wouldn't this be, like leading him to the answer instead of open-ended?
Yeah.
If we could do this, how would that benefit them? Open-ended, right? We have to get them to talk. You asked earlier, how do I get them to talk? Stop asking yes or no questions.
Mhm.
There are 3 questions that I have highlighted here. It was from, I think, one of the previous scripts, and it depends on the conversation. And the first one is, what kind of relief would that possibly provide your family? Let them tell me how it would help them. And the second one, it just, depends on the conversation. Or the second, I would say, well, do you like the idea of that? How would that help? So and so. And then, or I would say, well, how do you think that would help your family in that situation? Just get them to tell. I want them to feel their own pain. That before I even move forward, let them tell me. Those are 3 things that I ask, at least one of them, before I move forward.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, another thing that the Guardian Society does, they are our advocacy program. And what I mean by that is the Guardian Society is made up of former funeral directors. They know the funeral home industry. They know the markup. The markup is anywhere from 300 to 500%. All right. Hence, dying in this country is very, very expensive. Right. So what they do is before your sons sign on the dotted line, that invoice, they're going to go in and they're going to negotiate down the cost of your funeral. Whether they decide to bury you, right, because burial is anywhere from 12 to 15, or cremate you, it doesn't matter. Their job is to go in and make sure that they're not being overcharged for all your services. Thereby, 2 things. One, you could get a smaller policy with us if all you're trying to do is cover your basis, or you can leave more of that money, those savings, to the hands of your kids. Okay?
Okay.
Do you like the idea of a life insurance policy offering not just a death benefit, because that's what everyone else offers, it's just a death benefit that pays out about a month after you die? It's a little bit more than that.
Wow.
They're here to negotiate, price shop funeral homes so that your body doesn't end up at the most expensive funeral. You got to be really careful in California because the prices are so drastically different. So they're going to do all of those for them. And all your children will need to do is approve or deny. That's it. Say yes or no to what they want. thereby
Uh-huh.
easing some of that burden.
So much talking, Nancy. So he gave us a clue a little bit ago that we could have gotten him to expand on. Did anyone catch that clue just now? He said, wow. How do you expand on that?
What do you mean by wow? Or what made you say wow?
Yeah.
Like try to figure out his thought process.
Yeah, like what did he like, right? I heard you just say wow. Like what about what I just said caused you to say that? Right? So this has turned like what if you had to give yourself a percentage, Nancy, of how much talking you're doing versus how much questions you're asking to get your customer to talk, how would you rate that?
I talked 80% of the time, if not
I would-
more.
More. Yeah. So when we don't create that space to give our customers the opportunity to contribute, then we also aren't creating what?
Trust.
More important than that?
A need.
A need creates what?
Urgency.
Urgency.
Urgency. Yeah.
Without urgency, they might like it, but do they want to do it right now? No. Will you call me back? That's when we get call me back. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to research the company. I'm going to do all this because they might like it, but do they feel so compelled to change their situation from where they're at to where they want to be today? If they're not given the space to do any of the talking or convincing us that this is the answer for them, right? If anybody should be doing convincing or persuading, it's the customer telling us why they want it, why they need it, why it would impact their family, negative or positive, if they had or did not have this, and what the consequences would be if they just got a policy that just had a death benefit. That has to come from them.
So that they could spend more time grieving and less time dealing with the hassle of dealing with the funeral home. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Very different from what you have been talking about with
Hearing.
other- Yes.
You know, I started because I heard this advertisement of the government pays so much money for your funeral costs, you know, for funeral expenses, and all that stuff is not true.
No, the government does not pay. It's not the government's responsibility.
What's a question you could have asked there? This is advanced training on steroids.
Where did you hear that?
Yeah. I need to know more, right? So much just like surface information and then solving problems or answering questions. But what we have to do is get more context. Because this is probably another reason why he didn't buy with someone else, because he's still looking for this free government program, right? I need to know more about where that is coming from. Where did you hear that? Can you tell me more about that? What do you think? You know, do you think that's true? Like, have you called about it? Like question. I need him to debunk his own concern. Because if I just say, no, that's not true, I'm still a salesperson.
To bury anyone.
I understand that, but why do they put that out there?
Who's putting, are you saying that as in an advertisement?
Yes.
Is that what
Don't
you-
answer his question.
That I don't know. That's very misleading advertising.
I was on Facebook, and that's where that came on. That's why, you know, I said, well, I put in the information, and then that's when you people start calling me.
Mm.
You people.
So now, Theo,
Okay, so this could have been information we would have gotten in the
Beginning.
Had we gotten him to expand on his answer,
Mhm.
right? Because
Oh,
now
yeah.
we're in pitch mode and he still has this in the back of his mind where we should have crushed it in discovery.
Mhm.
The only time that the government will pay is if you're a veteran, right? So the vet,
It doesn't say that.
oh, well,
Again,
as far as the government paying, they do pay your loved ones $255 from your Social Security when someone passes. So in many ways, I guess it's accurate because they do pay for civilians $255, but if you're a vet, they do take care of.
Gee, they're advertising that they pay up to $23,000 for your funeral costs.
Yeah. Questions. What did the ad say?
Yeah, and if
Tell me
all
more
that,
about it.
they do.
Now we've
Yeah,
gotten him a little bit.
Oh no.
off track.
Oh, sorry. We've gotten a little bit emotionally engaged and boom, where are we at now? We're at resistance. We're at lack of trust. We're at defending, I'm a liar because I'm now by default associated with this ad. You people now keep calling me because I wanted to know more about that. This is information we need to find in discovery.